Hello there and welcome to this Interface webinar where we are going to be having a look today at some exciting news around the latest .NET drivers that have been released and updated for Interface. So my name is Stephen Ball and I'm going to be one of your presenters today. Joining me online is Mary Kelly. Hi Mary.
Hi.
I'm going to be taking you through some of the kind of slide parts with the assistance of Mary today, who's also going to be delving in to show you the new drivers working through Visual Studio and how you can get hold of them from NuGet or GitHub as you desire. So this is a really exciting time. It's the first update to these drivers we've had since I think .NET 2. So it's been a while coming, and InterBase is used by a number of pretty large Visual Studio customers, and especially big in one of the medical arenas with a Visual Studio customer as well, which we can't kind of go too much into, but used a lot in security and kind of body scanners and things like that. So really well, deeply embedded for critical and mission critical kind of solutions, which is kind of cool. So as I say, we're going to be having a quick introduction today to what InterBase is about and how you can get hold of it now and integrate it directly into the Visual Studio. So what is InterBase? Put it simply, it's a really powerful, small footprint, multi-platform embeddable database. And one of the amazing things about InterBase is that it is a really small footprint. It's a few meg from the deeply embeddable version that you can run out onto iOS and Android, to the kind of multi-user server version that is able to run on Windows or Linux. And across each platform, you can use the same disk format database file to be able to develop really easily and quickly on your development machine, and then get that directly into production wherever that is. So if you're developing mobile applications and you want to test them locally on Windows, or you're doing any development work on Windows, then it's all there ready to use, and then you can just get that deployed out to mobile. So InterBase is award-winning. We won the IoT Awards for most innovative use of data a few years ago, which in part was down to its change views technology. If you're not familiar with change views, it's an exceptionally powerful way of tracking changes to data inside the database. And you're probably kind of thinking, that sounds a bit like replication. Well, actually, it kind of came out of some of the needs around replication, but is actually challenging a lot of the issues that you have with large-scale replication technologies. So much so that InterBase is quite often being seen now deployed alongside other database engines, just to be able to have that high scalable data movement capability added to an infrastructure, your data infrastructure. So change views, basically, it doesn't use any logs. It doesn't have any additional triggers or anything else like that you need to put into the database. You just create a subscription and then allow the end users to subscribe to the subscription. And you're then able to fetch, using the same SQL statement, exactly what has changed when you reconnect and activate the subscription, which is pretty powerful. And it has the same footprint if it's 1 or 100,000 users. It really doesn't care. So that's kind of pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add, Mary, in terms of favorite bits around InterBase?
Oh yes. Well, my favorite bit with InterBase is security. I'm a bit of a security enthusiast, and so from a security standpoint, what you have with InterBase is you have this transparent encryption. So your data is actually encrypted even at rest or in motion with full database, table, and column level encryption, meaning that your data is going to be safe and secure no matter where it is, whether it's embedded or at the server level. And that's also extremely important for a lot of businesses.
And this is a really key differentiator for InterBase, especially when you start looking at mobile deployments. Having the ability to have that user security inside the data file that you're storing takes it way beyond what you can achieve with things like SQLite, where you can actually have, if we were two different parts of the same organization, as a HR person, I might be able to log in and see bits of data that relate to pay and other things that have been done on site reports or whatever. Whereas another user might not be able to see that same data, or might have the rights to create it but not update it. And even on a mobile device, you can have that level of functionality if you've got shared devices within a team and so on, to encrypt and manage and store data quite well.
Yeah.
And I say, if you ever have any need, you can then literally pick that data file up from the mobile device, put it on a development machine for the developer to be able to run their queries. And if they don't have the rights to see that data, they're not going to be able to see it. You can set up default values that the developer will then be able to see and work with. So regardless of the role within the organization, your data is kept highly secure wherever it sits and resides, which is phenomenal. It's a capability that is just above and beyond what you need in terms of data security today. So one of the things that we sometimes get asked about is obviously InterBase's this hummingbird icon, and the reason for that, and we've touched on a few of these things already, is InterBase is just like the hummingbird. It has a very small footprint. It's blazingly fast, very, very, very lightweight. It's highly maneuverable, and specifically, we're talking about being able to move cross-platform, but also throughout the development cycle between the different kind of devices that you need to work with. And one of the things that's unique about the hummingbird is it's the only bird that can actually fly backwards. Now, there are a few databases out there that allow you to do point-in-time recovery, but InterBase Server is one of those. We're using the journaling and the journal archives. Not only does it make InterBase absolutely scream in terms of performance, but it also enables you to be able to roll back the database if you ever need to. And I've had instances where I've had over enthusiastic CEOs kind of want to help out with the support desk and modify a SQL statement and run against the database to try and help out, and wiped out the entire billing data for that club that they were trying to work and help on. And being able to roll back in time was a godsend for background. And also, some unique capabilities around InterBase. Change views, which we've touched on, is certainly one of those. So whatever your scale, InterBase is here and works with you. And we thought we'd just kind of touch on a couple of customers to explain a little bit about those. So I don't know, Mary, do you know these customers pretty well, 100 Plus, don't you?
Yeah, this is one of the customers that I get the opportunity to work with quite often. So essentially, they have EHR and, as you can see, practice management solutions for eye care professionals. And what they are able to do is develop their Delphi, develop applications, and be able to distribute them across the board seamlessly to their customers.
Yeah, and this is great. I remember talking to these guys when I was doing some product management work on InterBase a number of years ago. They were really, really excited at the point that InterBase to Go came out onto Android and iOS, and they were then able to take a subset of their business practices using their existing tested, regulated data structures and be able to help move some of those bits onto mobile devices to add a new dimension to what they were doing. So yeah, a great use case of where you can grow and augment what you're doing throughout the life cycle of your product, thanks to the multi-platform support InterBase provides. Yeah, we've got another one here. This is Opus Capita. These are some guys in the Nordics who are doing a phenomenally high volume of transactions per day, financial transactions, working with government organizations and large blue chips. They basically outsource the invoice processing to have all the paper trail, the audit trail, and everything in place through the financial side of things. And they've now scaled up. They're doing over 500,000 new financial transactions per day at their peak run time through the month. And InterBase just provides them fast server with the performance they need. There's 8 cores included out of the box. They extend that to take advantage of the ability to use even more cores. And again, a great example of how InterBase has been able to start with their project and with the solution. And as it's scaled over time, they've been able to increase the speed and performance with the same database without having to make any wholesale changes. So across the whole life cycle, speed, performance, and cost have always been critical and on point for them, which is pretty cool. So just before we kind of get into having a look at the connectivity, just wanted to share with you the difference between the 2 types of version of InterBase. So you might hear about InterBase IB Lite and To Go. Now these use the same binary files, and they're literally just controlled through a license file to provide different functionality. So if you want to upgrade easily from IB Lite to InterBase To Go, it's literally just a case of relaunching the app with the new license file. And the main difference here is that IB Lite and InterBase To Go are deeply embedded libraries. So these run inside your application's memory space when your application runs. So it's only for your application to use, which means it's very, very fast, very secure, but allows us to be able to embed onto all platforms that we reach out to. And then we have the server edition. And for Windows, we have a desktop edition, which is limited to Windows only. And that basically allows multiple applications or multiple users in terms of the server version to connect into the same database at the same time. So giving you full kind of multi-tier capabilities with the database engine. So each platform has the same on-disk format, which makes it very, very easy to develop and move between them. And the same embedded role-based user security, the admin APIs for backing up, restoring, for adding users, validating, fixing, mending databases, again, work across all versions. The encryption setup and configuration, again, InterBase To Go and the desktop and server edition is there and available. So yeah, all works the same way everywhere. And change views, obviously, is part of the To Go desktop and server edition. Now, there's a few additional kind of features and capabilities available for the server edition, which you'd expect from an enterprise kind of grade database in terms of remote SSL communication, having the write head logging, which just helps write what the changes are going to be before it then applies them into the database and onto disk. So that means that even if you're using memory to improve the speed and performance, if there is any problems with the server, as soon as the engine comes back up online, it will just replay the log on to catch up to exactly what's been missed in terms of what's saved to disk, and you're back at exactly the same point as you were, so nothing gets lost. So it gives you the speed and security of in-memory processing. Additionally, point-in-time recovery, which we touched on earlier, and also kind of server-wide SQL monitoring, so you can check what's happening and get a real insight to what load is going through your server and query into how effectively your SQL statements are being pushed and so on. Anything else that you want to add on there, Mary?
No, I think you covered it quite well.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to you then. Do you want to just do a quick overview in terms of the connectivity options, and then we'll get into one of your demos?
Yeah, excellent. So with InterBase, we have so many different connectivity options available for you. If you are a RAD Studio, C++ builder, or Delphi user, and you are already aware that we have some connectivity already integrated, such as FireDAC and InterBase Express or IBX. But if you don't work within the RAD Studio ecosystem, you have the new ADO.NET drivers, you have ODBC and JDBC drivers as well, So you have that connectivity into Visual Studio, you have Eclipse, you also have PHP and even Ruby access as well.
Yeah, very comprehensive connectivity to be able to get in. And I know the ODBC and the JDBC drivers are used by a number of kind of third-party tools to help provide access to interface in terms of from a tooling point. One of the other things that I kind of haven't put onto the slides here is obviously if you're looking at using interface, and I know a lot of our audience today are going to be people who are using kind of Visual Studio and maybe Microsoft SQL Server or other database engines. One thing that's definitely worth having a look at is Aquadata Studio, which I know you know quite a bit about, Mary, which is a pretty good IDE for kind of database development, isn't it?
It is. You have access to over 35 different databases, so all from within the same IDE. So if you're working with SQL Server, you're working with InterBase, you're working with Oracle or Postgres or any other database out there that you're using, you can actually see them all from one single point of view and be able to still run queries, insert data. You have full CRUD and also visual building for queries, as well as visual analytics that are built in. So you can actually understand and see a full visual representation of the data for anyone to be able to see.
Yeah, so if you are looking at putting interface alongside anything else in your state, definitely a tool that we're having a look at. Okay, so I think let's get straight into your demo and have a quick look at the ADO.NET drivers in action.
To get started using the new ADO.NET driver with InterBase, there are a few different integrations that we have. We have the IB.NET Data Provider GitHub package that you can download that provides the ADO.NET provider, as well as the DDEX or Data Designer integration into the IDE, or you can also use the NuGet packages and get the Entity Framework core as well as the driver in individual projects as well. Now, to begin the download installation process, you can either first start with the NuGet packages or with the .NET Provider GitHub folder. If you start with the GitHub download, you can go into the provider, build a PowerShell script, and it will change the machine.config file before you can then go in and make some alterations to the registry so that you can start to work with the data designer. It will create a DDEX InterBase folder as well under the Program Folders x86 folder that will allow you to then start building and actualizing data within the IDE. Now, an alternative to just using the data provider from GitHub, you can also choose to download via NuGet. So within the NuGet gallery, there are two downloads available. You have the InterBase SQL.EntityFrameworkCore.InterBase, as well as the InterBase SQL.Data.InterBase client, and this is going to be the ADO.NET driver. Should you decide to use them individually within an application, you can download them directly from the IDE via the NuGet package manager. So you can choose to go into the package manager console, and from there, copy over and paste in your package code. Running that, and you can go into the NuGet solution. And a requirement of running the entity framework along with the InterBase client are that you need to have both the entity framework core.design as well as tools available. You'll want to make sure that you have the 3.1 installed for design as well as for the tools. Now we can go in and take a look at InterBase SQL. We can see that we have both the client as well as the framework core, and both of those have been installed into this core example. Now you will need this for using the entity framework. Now the entity framework does have a few requirements. The entity framework supports the server or desktop versions of InterBase, and this is because of the entity UDF only supported by our desktop and server editions. Now, if we take a look at the application itself, we can see that from the packages we have our SQL client as well as the framework added to this project. So within this sample, I already have under the model an employee and employee context.cs files. So within these, they're already generated for me as the tables that I have available within my employee database. So if we toggle to the entity core example.exe and run it, and we can see our one user was added to the database. This just demonstrates how easy it is to use the entity framework with InterBase using the ADO.NET driver. Now, in that .NET provider download from GitHub, we have 3 samples that we include. The first sample I already showed you with the entity core sample. And then we also have a simple grid as well as a connection builder. Going into these, you'll notice within the bin folder specifically that the InterBase SQL.data.interbaseclient.dll is actually included with them. We click on that application. It is a Forms application, so it will just allow us to add in our server. You can have a remote server or a local host server, depending on your configuration. We can go ahead and add a database path. Set the port number. InterBase is supported on 3050 or 3051. You'll need to use your username and password as well. And then, of course, setting the dialect packet size. If your database is encrypted as well, you'll want to add in the SEP password. And if you happen to be using an SSL certificate, you can also add all of that in for a more secure connection. I can go ahead and test this database connection and success. I can take this string and open up a second example, my simple grid, and we can go ahead and take a look at what some of the data held within this application are. So my Windows form app 1, just alter that connection string, click connect, and this is the connection that I'm currently running. Okay, and I can choose to look up. Now I have multiple SQL statements that I could run here. I could also choose to insert, update, and delete as well, where we can also see our user John Doe has records from different times added to this database. But it gives you an option to see just how to use the ADO.NET driver from within your applications using .NET and InterBase. And in summary to what I just showed you as well, you can get access to the ADO.NET drivers via the NuGet packages, so directly from within the Visual Studio IDE, or you can also get access to the entity framework support. And if you're looking to have the IDE integration, you can use the DDEX or Data Designer integration via the GitHub package, and the links have been provided at the bottom of the screen.
Great, thanks very much, Mary. It's really cool to see the kind of the Visual Studio integration directly, first-class citizen within NuGet, and the support for the entity framework. Obviously, the entity framework, as kind of covered, is there for the server edition. There's some extra libraries that you need to run alongside, hence why it's only for the server edition. So if you are going to look to do mobile development work, then that's just one thing to be aware of at the moment for looking and using InterBase and platforms there. Okay, so I think that pretty much brings us to the end of what we wanted to share with you today. Today is really about trying to get the news out there about the amazing new drivers, and great to kind of see those in action quickly. We'd love to get your feedback on them and to hear the great things that you're doing with InterBase. If you have any questions or queries, then please feel free to reach out to either Mary or myself, or any member of our sales network globally. We've got some great guys all over the world speaking different languages if you want to speak to somebody kind of local to you. But now I think it's probably time for us just to open up for some Q&A.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this webinar today. We're all really excited about the release of this new ADO.NET driver. Well, I'll go ahead and open it up to our Q&A, where I'm joined by Stephen Ball, Marco Cantu. Yes.
Hi, this is Marco.
Hello, this is Sriram here.
Yes, and also by Sriram. Thank you guys for being able to join us on this Q&A today. So for one of our first questions that we had kind of pop up in the questions panel here was, does InterBase currently run on ARM64?
Yes, I can take that on. For ARM64, we have support on the mobile platforms for Apple iOS and Android, but we do not support ARM64 on the desktop platforms yet.
Yeah, what we're looking forward to as a first step is the new macOS M1 chips, because that's a platform we are going to target in the future with also with RStudio and our development tools.
Do we have any security certifications in place currently?
No, we don't have any specific security certifications, but we do know that customers who need InterBase and their applications functioning in areas which require PCI DSS compliance or HIPAA compliance do use InterBase in those too. And I guess the certifications or the documentation for certifications are provided more from the customer side, because the whole vertical layer, with including the application and the database and the system, all needs to be encompassed in that certification for their end users. So InterBase does not provide any direct security certifications, but we do use industry standard OpenSSL for our encryption for both data on rest as well as for the communication.
Yeah, I know it's something we've worked with some customers in the past, as Sriram was saying, and the big challenge is that we could certify the InterBase part, but as soon as you put your application with it, it's not certified anymore because it has to be the full stack that's certified. So it's kind of pointless to do the certifications specifically on InterBase, because you actually need the other part with it as well. So yeah, but we have customers who are doing all of that. And yeah, it's one of the nice things, especially with the kind of the real granularity within the encryption, with column level encryption, and being able to use multiple encryption keys within the database. It gives you, everything you need to be able to get a broad range of kind of certifications done, and do the best practice with them as well. Like PCID certification, you're supposed to have a separate encryption key for any fields that you're storing any credit card information within. So being able to have that as a completely separate key to, for example, any other data that you're wanting to encrypt around personal identifiable data, it's fully possible to do that with InterBase, which is very powerful.
Mm-hmm. So we did have one question that kind of popped up about encryption. Now, I know we didn't cover it specifically within this webinar, but the question had to do with using AES encryption in an InterBase server, and then is there the ability to decrypt that with a dev server, a DES, or a developer edition version of InterBase? And as provided as one of the questions, we can kind of go into some more detail there. The developer edition that we provide you it does not encrypt data with AES encryption, so you'll need the server edition for that. Now, one thing that you can do is connect to another server remotely from any of the clients and get that AES data. So if you also have two servers, for instance, set up a developer edition, or excuse me, not developer edition, but a developer server or a dev server and a production server as well. As long as both of them have AES encryption, you could do a backup and restore to the other machine to be able to open up and actually be able to see that data, as long as you have the encryption or decryption keys available to you.
Yeah, the other thing is you can just get a single user server, or even just the desktop edition for Windows to put onto your development machine if you want to make sure that you've got the full AES encryption there. As part of our VAR programs, our OEM programs, if you are in that situation, you're looking at deploying a lot of licenses, then just have a chat with our sales team, and I'm sure we can help sort something out if you need that on your development machines with you. So it's not a problem there.
Well, another question that we had come through was, do we support code first migrations using the ADO.NET driver?
From what I understand, that's supported through Entity Framework. So it's not something that we have tested as far as I know specifically. If it has any relevance or dependency on the older Entity Framework 6 or EF6, that should be supported still in the code. But if you encounter any issues with that, please do let us know.
So we sort of spoke on this a little bit earlier in relation to ARM and ARM64. We talk about InterBase as an IoT database. Do we have any current plans or roadmap ideas on when we'll be supporting Linux, ARM, or 64?
We're always eager to hear new platform requirements from customers. So if you have Linux platform, InterBase runs on both 32 and 64-bit Linux x86. So if you have any specific requirements for InterBase on Linux ARM64, please do connect with our sales team, so we can understand not only your requirements on those platforms, but also the timeline when you would like those supported. We'll be happy to look into those.
And you can also reach out to product managers. So in this case, me, which is marco.canto@embarcadero.com, for any platform or feature wishes.
A question here from Bruce for the ADO.NET driver. Does it support both the 64-bit and 32-bit IB client 64 DLL and GDS 32 DLL?
Yes, it does.
And actually, with one of the samples that we ship, it specifically uses the IB client 64 DLL, the entity framework console application that I showed in the video. That specifically uses the 64-bit DLL.
Yeah, just also talking about the kind of 64-bit, 32-bit. There was another question earlier on about if InterBase is 64-bit, and yes, it's got the support there for 64-bit versions. The one thing that obviously I will say is that if you've got 32-bit and 64-bit clients running within your estate, then you can actually run a 64-bit server and 32-bit clients, or even you could have 64-bit clients and a 32-bit server, because the communication is through an over-the-wire protocol. It really doesn't mind between machines if they're 32-bit or 64-bit. As long as they're running a compatible version of InterBase, then you can connect from one to the other quite happily.
Do we have any free commercial versions of InterBase? Currently, we offer the developer edition, which, while not a commercial edition, is sort of a development tool for you. Then we do have access, or we do provide access to IB Lite, which has a runtime royalty-free sort of licensing. So you can deploy that out on mobile devices or even to desktop. It supports all of our platforms, where you'll be able to still use that. So that's the version that you could currently use, IB Lite, in terms of commercial usage.
Yeah, the other option, obviously, not strictly free, but is included with the Enterprise Edition of Delphi C++ Builder or Rad Studio. There's a license for runtime royalty-free distribution of InterBase to go on iOS and Android. So if you are looking to do your mass deployment, and typically at the moment that is onto mobile, then you can distribute freely on those platforms and have the power and capabilities of InterBase directly inside your mobile applications for free under that license.
Yeah, the other thing that's worth mentioning is that I mean, InterBase has two completely different sales model. I mean, if you're building an application for your company, you can buy a license for a server. That's fine. If you're distributing an application not to 1 or 2 companies, but to 100 or 1,000 companies, we have OEM distribution deals. So basically, you can embed the database with your application, and the license cost is a fraction of what it will cost for a full server, or it would, most of the competitors that have a commercial product would charge, and you still get support and all of the security of a commercial version. So I mean, large number of distribution of InterBase, whether it's for desktop or for a server with a few users, are possible through the OEM agreement. So if there's any interest there, don't get worried about the price before knowing the price, because the price might be so much lower compared to expectations.
I was just following on from the earlier question about the 32 and 64-bit. We've got just an update onto that. You know, the client actually is smart enough to look at the bitness of the application, and it will load the appropriate client libraries based on that as well. So there's some smarts built in, which is pretty cool.
See here, I believe we've answered the majority of the questions. Is anyone seeing any questions that I may have missed so far?
No, there's a few kind of pretty specific questions, people wanting to kind of ask something quite personal to them, which I don't think is probably quite right for us to share out onto the global, the replays and so on. So for those questions, we will kind of follow up with you, directly and personally afterwards.
I've also been typing in most of the answers, so I'm hoping that others are able to see the answers. I cannot myself see it. So
yeah, I can see those come through, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess if we're not
I'm going to paste in the chat the link to the blog post that we did earlier. Not because of the blog post itself, because it doesn't add anything to the content here, but it has the links to the NuGet package, the GitHub repo, and the documentation and so forth. So the usefulness of the blog post is in the links that it provides, so you can follow to get more information. Again, there is documentation on the InterBase doc wiki, and the links to the drivers, both in ready to use NuGet package format and the source.
All right. Thank you, Marco, for sharing that link with us. If we don't, it looks like we may have a few extra comments or questions. More or less,
so more extra information.
Yeah.
So okay, we'll share that information for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess if there are no more extra questions, then thank you all for joining us today, and please feel free to reach out to any of us with any comments or questions relating to InterBase or the ADO.NET drivers as well.
thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.